Everyone, welcome to the Balearic Yacht Show. I'm happy to introduce you to the session called Time to Take Responsibility, Not Risks by the Superyacht Group. I would like to remind you that if you have any questions throughout this session, you'll have the chance at the end to unmute yourselves and ask directly to the speakers. Otherwise, you can write them in the chat and I'll read them out myself. So I'm going to hand it over to Martin. You can take it from there.
Alice, thanks very much. Your last day of the show. I'm sure you're looking forward to a glass of wine tonight. Well done. Listen, hello everyone. Morning, good day, buenos dias. I'm joined today by Ima Schmitz, Paul Miller, Diego Colon, and Jose Cuartos. Is that Cuartas?
Quart.
Listen, the point is that we had a conversation offline some time ago about the world of insurance and the world of risk. Diego Colon made a very, very clear comment that has driven the conversation, which is this whole topic of people taking responsibility. And I feel this really made this conversation become very, very different in a way. Rather than just talking about liability and insurance, we talk about responsibility. Diego, what do you mean by that? Let's sort of dig into what you really want to talk about from a responsibility point of view.
Well, my plan when I propose this is that people think that everything can be under insurance, and we can sometimes forget that a lot of things cannot be protected by an insurance, and the responsibility is affecting human beings, it's affecting civil court process, sometimes criminal court process, and this is a very important issue that is sometimes forgotten.
So in terms of a shipyard like Astilleros Mallorca, what is it that you are concerned about going forward that relates to this topic of responsibility? What examples could you bring forward that you think actually the market doesn't really think about this enough?
Well, to make things clear, I think it will be good if I make an example, as you said.
Yeah.
Let's say this is a hypothetical situation where a yacht is on a marina. We have an electrician, 2 engineers, and probably another 2 or 3 painters working on an engine room. And there is an explosion because the ambient is an explosive ambient because of the solvents the painters are using, and a subsequent fire after the explosion, which is affecting the people who are working on the boat, and probably this fire is affecting other 2 boats on the marina. And in this situation, someone is calling an ambulance and taking 2 guys to hospital. Immediately, the police is informed of that, and probably the same day or the day after, we have an inspector of health and safety asking how was the accident, and at the same time, the police is opening a new file for that. And after this, probably we have 2 different ways to go. One part of the issue goes to the insurance, and the other part of the problem goes to the court process. And the insurance, probably everybody knows how to deal with, but we don't know how to deal with the other responsibilities. And this is something that is very important, because when the health and safety inspector is asking who is responsible for this, I mean, who is the main contractor, who has been contracting these guys to work on board, who is doing the coordination of this job that has been proceeding at the same time. And if the 2 painters were part of the crew, were day workers, if they were day workers, do they have a contract? And if they were official painters belonging to a paint company, what kind of insurance they have, what kind of protection they have, and if the coordination was made properly, if there is a record of the coordination of the safety and health regulations. I mean, all this is very very important. And I don't think people understand that behind an accident is not only money. Sometimes it's also responsibilities, and these responsibilities can be very, very important, and sometimes can get to criminal responsibilities.
Yeah, so you said it's a hypothetical situation.
Yes, of course.
So most hypothetical situations are based on fact or based on experience. So what I'm going to ask the question is, Paul, in your experience, how often or whenever does that situation happen that you are brought into the mix on?
Well, this situation can happen on a shipyard, can happen on a marina, can happen everywhere. And I think it's important that people the people who owns the facilities, they have to be careful that everything that is happening inside their facilities are made properly. I think.
Yeah, sure. So Paul, from an insurance perspective.
Okay, I mean, probably two parts to this. Is one, I think, when a boat is physically in a yard like Astilleros, being worked on, then the situation is managed reasonably well and controlled, and the shipyard, of course, will have its own procedures in place. I think, as we talked about the other day, I think that sometimes gets disrupted when captains or whoever's running the refit look to bring in their own contractors outside of that, which cause disruption, and they either don't follow the health and safety rules, or they don't understand certain ways of doing it in that particular yard. And I think the second part of it is, if that kind of incident occurred in a marina, then it's almost certainly going to be the captain that's running that work, if you like, and that potential, I suppose, criminal responsibility becomes his. I think the other point to that, I guess, is that I don't think people realise how complicated situations like this get. So, sitting from my perspective, I would insure the hull of the yacht. So I will send my surveyor down as the hull surveyor. If there's damage to the marina or other parties, then the P&I club will send their own. If somebody is potentially badly injured or certainly killed, then there will be a flag state investigation as well, along with all the other people that Diego mentioned, which will be health and safety, local police, and so forth. And you can end up with 10 or 12 parties investigating the same incident, which gets incredibly complicated, to be fair.
Yeah. So it goes back to that point there. Diego mentioned this word, take responsibility. So how educated or how informed do you think the market is, to all the panel, on this responsibility topic? Because I feel that's one of the areas that people are making decisions maybe without being fully informed, and also maybe not asking the right questions. And this is part of what we call the workshop model we try to develop at the Balearic Yacht Show, is to educate and inform. So where can people make sure, or how can people make sure they are taking the right responsibility to reduce risk? Is it just a matter of phoning up your insurance company, or is there something else that can be done? Because I feel that I hear this all the time, that people are not taking responsibility and making or putting people at risk, especially, as you say, Paul, the subcontractor network, who may be coming to do things without having that clarity or transparency of the insurance cover.
Yeah.
So if I can answer under my point of view as insurance broker, first of all, we analyze with clients is which risk they are exposed, which are the risks. We have to analyze the risk. That risk can be insured, some risk cannot be insured, okay? But it's very, very important. And I think main contractors, sometimes they are not aware about the risk they are involved, And this is very, very important. And I see in my business with shipyard, with any other company, subcontractor, working in yacht in that business, because really, as I see in Mallorca, we have there are no huge, very huge repair companies who work in shipyards as contractors. We say, no, you want to say, but we are really good. They are really very efficient. They work very well, but they don't aware really the risk they are involved. This is my point of view.
Yeah, Emma.
I'd also agree, because I really think that people are not aware sometimes. Sometimes they just sign a contract with the yard without really analyzing all the liabilities that might be included in this contract. There could be contractual liabilities, or even just the thing that some captains put subcontractors as crew on their crew list. All this has to be analyzed before, because from this, these responsibilities rise. And I think people sometimes, they just do it without knowing what consequences these acts have.
Yeah. Paul, on that basis, do you think it goes down to everything being last minute or not planning or thinking, or is there something else at foot?
I think it's probably a bit of a mixture. We get projects that are well organised ahead of time. We still get, and I'm sure Amy does, you get far too many phone calls on a Friday night saying, can you please sign this waiver because my boat's being taken out in the shipyard tomorrow morning. You know, and you know, on these big boats, you don't turn up the day, you know, you never get in a yard the day before. You know, you're organising this a long way ahead. And I think, just to add to the previous comments, that one of the issues we have is that when we have reasonable sized refit projects, we struggle at times to be able to get anyone involved in the project to be able to identify which contractors are through the yard and which contractors are directly to the boat. And you know, if the captain or whoever is running that project, if they don't understand what they can't tell me that, then they have no way of knowing what they're responsible for or not, and who they are responsible for. And I think that's one of the real difficulties is, you know, is the education of just generally what people's responsibilities are and what they need to be controlling.
Yeah, so on that point, you're saying that sometimes as an insurer or even as a captain, are you saying that the information you need is who's doing what and who's contracted to whom?
Yeah, I mean, I get sent a big, you know, I mean, I'll get sent an email with half a dozen attachments to it, whatever it is, but, you know, and there'll be a big refit quote from the yard. There'll be quotes from other individual contractors and so forth. And you know, we would ask to, or we would look through that and then ask for confirmation of which are the higher risk, what we would call the higher risk elements. So hot work, where there's welding and all that kind of stuff occurring, that, you know, that require permits and so forth. And secondly, which of those contractors are through the yard where we have the benefit of the yard ship repairs liability cover, and which contractors are direct. And if they're direct, what is their, you know, what liability policy do they have? What liability limits do they have? And that's what we need to get to, so we understand where we are. But, you know, as I said, the other side of that is those direct contractors are the responsibility of the boat.
Yeah. So you made a comment a minute ago, Paul, about some boats do have a very good plan and very well organised and were very well project managed. Is it getting better across the landscape, or is it in an isolated scenario? What's the ratio, do you think, of to the old way?
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, I think it's getting better. And you know, and there are some really, really good project managers out there, and I would, you know, I would hope Diego would support the opinion that projects that he gets involved with, where there is a good quality project manager on the owner's side, run much more smoothly than ones that don't. So I think, you know, in terms of experience, that's what it is.
True. Yeah.
You know, sorry,
I think that's true, and those, I mean, the bigger the yacht, the best knowledge of this. And if the yacht is managed properly, these problems are minimized. And one important issue is where to do the refit. I mean, this is important, but in general, the ships, the ICOMIA Refit Group is very clear on this. And the biggest problem is when we are talking about maintenance work on a marina. Probably this is the biggest issue, and where the risk and responsibilities are more difficult to control.
Yeah. So what is the solution?
Well, it's very controversial subject because most of the captains and managers, they think they have the impression that you can do everything on a marina, provided there is no damage to your neighbors. It doesn't create problems to the marina or to your neighbors, and for them is that the only limit to the work they can do, and this is not correct. And I think to put some clarity on this, the ICOMIA Refit Group was publishing a guide for maintenance work that is carried out in a marina. And this guide is very clear that we are talking about whatever is related to fire risk, whatever is related to environmental risk and human being risk, when the yacht becomes a dead ship or non-operational or is affecting other yachts, those kind of works should not be made on a marina. And some of the port authorities in the Mediterranean has been implementing these ideas into the regulations. In the port of Balearics, in the last year, they include this list into the regulations. And it is very important that all the marinas inform the clients that there is a regulation. Certain jobs can be made in a marina, and other jobs cannot be made in the marina. There is a legal liability and potential criminal consequences for the yacht, and it's going to affect the insurance of the marina, the insurance of the yachts. And I think it is very important that all this information goes very quickly to every coming to a marina.
Right. So you're saying it's not a blanket regulation at the moment, it's just isolated marinas have adopted the ICOMIA refit guidance, is that right?
Yes, it is right. Some marinas has been adopting these regulations or these rules, and they implement whatever was proposed by the ICOMIA Refit Group, and some ports officially include this into the regulations, like the port of Balearics.
Okay. So if you're in the marinas in the Balearics, you cannot do hot work or environmental work or dead ship work within those marinas at the moment.
Yeah, that's correct.
When did that come into play?
Sorry?
When did that arrive as a regulation?
That was 1 year ago when they implement this, and I think most of the marinas already include this into the information they give to the clients.
Yeah. Okay. So what that probably does in some ways is that I use the word carefully, that cost-cutting refit or maintenance work that may be done in a marina may go elsewhere with some potential shortcuts. And I'm just wondering, is that going to change the way in which we will approach in marina maintenance and look for places they can do it? Are you just removing the problem to somewhere else?
Well, probably they are removing the problem to where it should be, which is the correct place to do it.
Paul?
Yeah, no, I think it'll move those issues to a controlled environment, into a shipyard where it should be happening, where this kind of work is happening. I think with the marinas, I mean, we insure enough marinas, the big marinas out there. This kind of stuff should be in the standard berthing contract. I think some things get lost along the way, particularly where you have someone that bought a berth on a 25-year lease, as an example, and they may have been aware of it when they bought the lease 15 years ago, but they are 3 captains later, and nobody has looked at it again. So that that really, I think, is down to the marina to continually reinforce that message to the crews and check up, monitor what's going on in the marina. I'm sure they can identify, a big white van with Jose's welding on the side or something that is shouldn't be, that really shouldn't be in our marina. Why is it there? And question it.
Yeah. So policing of it is a key part of the process, but education is the other key part.
Yeah.
And sharing information. So Emma, what is your sort of biggest concern going forward on the risk market at the moment?
My concern is that I really think that information, for example, this information that Diego just has given us, is not really spread in a efficient way. And if they have this in their berth contract, I think they should hand it out to every crew that joins, or it just has to be the spread of the information should be more organized and or in a better way, because I really think that sometimes it's just that people would like to do something right, but they don't know how to do it right. And I mean, I can see like all these different scenarios. We sometimes have captains, they inform us about every step they do, that they make. And then we have captains that don't even inform us if they go to a shipyard for a refit. And this is my concern, that we are sometimes not really involved in the whole process. Even though it might be an increase of risk, we don't know about the situation.
So why do you think that is, that you are, if a yacht goes into refit and the insurance company isn't told, why is that? That just seems to be crazy.
I think people don't think about it. I think they just try to get their project done, and they miss to involve all the participating parties.
Amazing.
I think there's some view, some people view it as this is, we're going for a refit or we're going for maintenance. It's part of the boat's life. And,
exactly.
We insure the boat on a navigating basis, not for a bit, not on a big refit. It's a change of risk as far as we're concerned. And most, if not all shipyards these days will ask for some form of waiver of liability to limit their exposure.
Yeah.
And, I think the awareness is rising, shall we say, within that, but anybody signing that contract needs to tell their insurers, because you cannot waive liability without the agreement of your insurers. So there's a risk there. And in fact, that's what the Arcomia contract does very well in, I think it's Appendix 7, where they say this is the waiver signed by the captain or the ship. It also needs to be signed by your insurers. So it makes it clear that they have to come and, they have to come and tell us. Where, we still see a lot of other shipyards that just get the captain to sign the waiver, and there's no part for the insurance company to play in that waiver, and that needs to change.
Yeah. No,
yeah, maybe our conditions are even a little bit misleading, because in our conditions we say your stay at the shipyard is also included, but the captain or the project manager has to be aware that if he goes to a shipyard, according to the works that will be realized, that this might be an increase of risk for the boat or for his responsibilities. So I would always recommend to everyone, contact your insurer, tell him what's going on, send them the yard contracts so that they can be checked from this side as well.
Yeah. So this whole thing about sort of planning, preparation, and let's say building this sort of model of life cycle management is part of what I call the next generation of our market. So people are better organized. Within that process, you're able to sort of say, okay, if we're planning a refit in 3 months' time, is that the time they should talk to you? So you have enough time to think or to work with the captain. I'm trying to look at scenarios that's going to help reduce risk and increase their awareness and then therefore their responsibility. Because I can't believe that people aren't thinking, I'm going to a shipyard, I need to tell my insurance company.
Well, I think, in my opinion, sorry, Paul, it's a question to be aware of that. If we always say, if I have to sign any contract or to do anything in my life, I try to go to a lawyer before to analyze where I am, my risk, where I'm going to take. I don't do anything. Oh, then let's see what happened. No, this is crazy. If you're captain of mega yacht, a super yacht, you have to be aware about what are you going to do and where are you going to do your refit and reparation. And this is very important. So for me, it's really weird that a yacht costs over 100 million euros, over 50 millions, I don't care. They have to think about that. So you are not a good captain, really. You are not only good captain, have to be the manager of that business in your hands.
Yes. Yeah. Paul?
Yeah, I think, you know, the sooner people come and talk to insurers, the better. It'll smooth the process and avoid hiccups. And I think, you know, from the other side of it, and you know, in our discussions with ICOMIA about, you know, yard surveys and stuff, the one thing the yards would like very much is people to make decisions earlier, so the yard can manage the situation, you know, the situation better. That said, you know, we do have good clients who come to us early, talk to us about it, but what we discuss 3 months before the boat goes into the yard probably changes twice before the boat actually gets there, and you know, it may be going in for its, you know, 5-year class survey, shafts out, all that kind of stuff, plus some work. Then and some more work. They decide we're going to do some more work, and then 2 weeks before, oh, by the way, we decided we're going to add a new helicopter pad, and the project escalates, shall we say, and changes dramatically. And you know, it happens.
Okay.
But you know, the sooner they talk to us, the less surprises there'll be on you know, along the way, and any additional premium that, you know, the yacht insurers require can be built into the project costing.
Yeah. Diego, if you look at this whole subject of responsibility and risk and this whole thing about planning and organization and preparing for the project, what are the things you think we should aim to change in our industry to improve that refit landscape, that subcontractor relationship, and this whole topic of taking responsibility? What would you like to see be the next step in our market?
Well, I think it's very important that we give the message to captains and managers that insurance is one thing and responsibilities it's another thing. And every time someone needs to start to refit, the first thing they need to be concerned or to be to solve is who is going to be responsible for my project, who is going to be the main contractor, and if the main contractor is ready to take this responsibility and is prepared for that, and the insurance that this main contractor is having is sufficient, and every subcontractor is working through the main contractor is also properly insured, and the policies are correct. And this is also an issue that most of the times when we go to any of the shipyards on the ICOMIA Refit Group, they all have very clear. But if you go to to prepare your project and do it independently, there is no reason why you should not follow the same procedure. You should follow the same rules, and you should be concerned about the same problems that a shipyard is concerned every time he's taking a project. And this is something that everybody has to learn, and probably managers, they already are aware of this, but some captains, they think they can do everything by their own, and of course they can do it, but they have to know what kind of responsibility they are assuming.
Yeah.
And also, if the subcontractors, if they are the main contractor, if the subcontractors they have the proper insurance, and I see most of them, they don't know exactly. I work with subcontractor, but they don't know if they are really with the right insurance, and this is very important also.
So you're saying that the subcontractor doesn't have the right level of insurance in some cases?
What I see when I'm talking about Balearic Island, no, there are, as we said before, there are many huge industry. These companies, small companies, as I said before, very efficient, but they sometimes they don't have the proper insurance. First of all, because they work in a mega yacht, and the insurance limit they have, the subcontractor insurance limit policies are very low. 300,000, 600,000 euros is not, it's enough money if you have an important claim over 6 million. Big yachts, no, the cost of the yacht. Against that, you're limiting your policy. No, this is something I see. And also about the coverage. No, they have, sometimes I find they don't have the right coverage to insure or to protect against all the work they are doing in a yacht, you know. And also, this is also important. So the main contractor must analyze that. Or let me see, as shipyard is doing, they analyze the shipyards. In my experience, they try to analyze what insurance my subcontractor have. If you have not the right insurance, you cannot work in my shipyard. It's something they don't do if the main contractor is a captain.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I would agree with that view, and that's sort of where, you know, the if you like, the education side of this and the knowledge level needs to move upwards. We need to go out there and get the message out that you know, if you do this as a captain, and I understand why, and I understand the reasons at times. You know, sometimes the owner's or the owner's driving the captain to save a bit of cost, so he contracts directly to avoid, you know, a 10% markup from the yard or something. But you know, they don't recognise that they lose the comfort of the ship repairs liability cover that the shipyard provides. And so they need to then, you know, they then get fed up with me asking lots of questions saying, well, can you give me the liability cover for the contractor? Can you give me this? And so forth. And then when they come in and say it's €500,000 euros, I go, sorry, I'd like to see a minimum of 3 or 5 million euros. The contractor says, I can't get it. The captain says, well, what am I supposed to do now? And, you know, it becomes, you know, difficult.
And I would even include as well the security companies. So if you have hot works, for example, included, and you have an external security company that established a security plan, I think they should also make a little bit liable. If they do the plan, it's not enough to just have a meeting before the project and then they don't check if everything is fulfilled and if something has to be changed, etc. I think these companies also have to take some responsibility. If they charge for it, they should also it should also be possible to hold them liable.
I think what's interesting is that when you look 10 years ahead from now, the market is not going to sort of, let's say, slow down dramatically. The refit market will continue to grow and the service and maintenance activity will continue to grow. So the potential marketplace is exciting from a financial, business and growth perspective, and Diego, I'm sure you've done all your homework as to what you think the next 10 years will do, but there's only limited capacity in the market to do a professional job on the well-organized shipyards. So that may drive, and also the cost element, as Paul mentioned, these sort of topics of markups on subcontractors and the cost of refit having quite a big spectrum of level. So do you think this may become something we have to change the insurance approach to self-manage projects in other facilities which are not at the same level? Do you think there needs to be a change in policy management or education being one thing, but like, can we do something better? Is there something we can do to solve the problem?
Yes, yes, I think so. I think most of the contractors, they have the policy, which is not very well adapted to the market, very well adapted to the industry. And sometimes it looks like most of these policies are made for someone who is driving a car or doing homework. And very few insurance policies are really well made with the description of the problems they can normally have during the work. And sometimes when there is an accident, everybody is trying to understand the small letters and see if it's included or is not included. And those kind of things are opening a big change in the market. I think the insurance companies, some of them are really dedicated to the naval industry, but some others are not dedicated at all. And as Pepe Quart was telling you, when you read the policies that most of the contractors are giving you, then you realize that those policies are not well designed.
So is there an opportunity to create a superyacht subcontractor policy that has a bit more of a robust approach? Or does it exist?
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Absolutely.
Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I think to some extent they are out there, and as Pepe says, in the more specialised markets or insurers that they're there. I think, the issue probably to some extent is the cost, particularly for small contractors, and that's where the like of maybe Pepe can certainly from the Balearic point of view anyway. If they can create a sort of an association of individual shipyard workers or companies or something, that they can then approach the market on a block basis.
A cooperative.
Makes more sense.
Sorry,
I have to tell you, I have to tell you that how much it costs to be properly insured. Really, it's not so much expensive. No. People think, but if I have to insure 1 million euros, for example, for the proper insurance, and it could cost 5,000 euros, up to 10,000 euros could be. But if you have a claim, 1 million, you have enough money to solve that claim, I think people, it could cost 100,000 euros, 200,000 euros. Really, trust me, it's not really expensive compared with a standard policy we see on the market that is not a proper policy, and it's that people is not aware about how much it is very expensive, not at all. But I think, in my opinion, if I'm an insurance broker, I have my company, all of us are working in companies that we have our insurance and we try to be well insured, And this is, I think, is people, as you say, Paul, Martin, it's a question of education to say to people to be properly insured, to do the work in a good way. It's just about communication. It's not so kind of difficult. It's something people have to know.
Yeah. So just jumping back to this topic here with you, Diego, if a subcontractor comes into Astilleros and doesn't have enough coverage, are they stopped from working under contract to the client?
That's a good question. It's a good question. The thing is, when a subcontractor comes to the shipyard, the yacht is protected by the shipyard policy, and the subcontractor is included into the shipyard policy.
Yeah.
And then the yacht is always protected. The shipyard is always protected. It's a matter of the insurance company of the shipyard claiming the insurance company of the contractor in case there is a problem. Then the problem is to a certain extent is minimized. But you're true, it's correct, your question. We inform the subcontractor that the policy needs to be modified in order to provide the needs we have for that kind of work.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. We've got about 2 or 3 minutes left. I'm going to ask you all to give one piece of advice that relates to taking responsibility and reducing risk. Let's start off with Emma. What's your one piece of takeaway advice that you're going to give yacht captains, managers, and also subcontractors?
Yeah, I would.
In terms of this taking responsibility and reducing risk, and let's say changing the landscape.
I would just give the advice to involve the insurance company at an early stage so that we can work it out together and that we can assess the client in this sense.
Jose?
I always say that you have to see the policies of your contractor, subcontractor. If you are a subcontractor, if you are a captain yacht, I have to contract people, and so they have the right policy, concerned about the work they are going to do and the limit they are exposed to.
Okay. Paul?
Okay, for big refit projects, employ a good quality project manager because it will make it a lot less painful. And for smaller projects that are perhaps captain run, start early and understand what it really needs to get this project cleanly through to completion.
And finally, Diego, from a yard perspective, your takeaway advice to customers and subcontractors.
Well, I should say that don't forget, on top of insurance, we have responsibilities. And every time you take a decision, you have to consider not only the right insurance and the risk you are taking, but also the responsibilities. Responsibilities are something that you should not forget.
Okay, good. Alice, do we have any questions, or do you want to open? We've got 2 or 3 minutes before we close off. Do you want to have any questions from the audience?
Yes, I've just given all the audience the opportunity to unmute themselves. Otherwise, raise your hand. Otherwise, write in the chat, and I will read out any questions.
Perfect. Thank you for that. I think the one thing that I'm going to say is that the takeaway, and something I'm going to talk to Paul about separately on another topic, is this education thing, because I feel that that's one thing that seems to keep repeating itself. We had a tax session yesterday. Again, it was about education. So there seems to be a real not issue, but like, so potentially that people aren't listening or consuming information because they're so busy, or they're just not being organized to look at the information that's available, because there's plenty of information around there. Any questions yet from the audience?
Not yet. Come on, everyone, it's your last chance to ask these great panelists a question. Now or never.
So the other takeaway I'm just going to throw in before we find any questions is Diego, just to reinforce, for 1 year now, there's been a policy or a regulation in place in Mallorca and Balearics that you cannot do certain work in a marina. Correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Where is that information available at the moment? Sorry.
I don't know.
Okay, fine, right. No,
That's the problem.
I will find out. I will find out.
I know that every company having permission to work in the port of Baleares, they know.
Yeah.
They know. But on top of that, how this information goes from the companies working on the ports of Baleares to the clients, maybe this route is already open.
Yeah, I think we can play a role as a super group, but I think Alice with the Balearic Marine Cluster, there's another opportunity there for more education for the island and for the visitors to the island. So that's another opportunity we need to explore. All right, listen, it seems that no one has any questions on the risk. Everyone's taking responsibility and thinking coffee time.
Yeah.
I hope you've learned something from that session. Thank you very much indeed, guys. An interesting topic that will not go away. I'd also like to talk about another subject, but maybe not now, but that's reading refit contracts, Paul, but that's another subject we can discuss another time. Something we think is an issue, let's call it, understanding refit contracts. Guys, thanks a lot, and I'll see you again soon, and I'll see some of you later on this afternoon for the green hub of the Balearics, which I think should be fun as well. Thank you, everyone.